It's interesting to see how many things I've tried over the years to be more responsible with money and to evaluate which ones were the most effective in helping me. Because no matter how sophisticated some of these methods get or how much I tailor them to fit my routines better, I realize that the simplest ways have always been the most helpful and were just the best ones to implement and stick to. These are obviously just things that I do that work for me, so I'll be sharing them in hopes of them bringing value to whoever decides to try them out for themselves. Here are some simple tips to being more responsible with money. But first, if you're new to my channel, thank you for stopping by. Here we talk about minimalism, frugal living, tech, and things of that nature. So if that sounds good to you and you end up liking the video, be sure to like and please banish the subscribe button to the shadow realm. Let's get started. The buffer zone. And the buffer zone is something I've been personally practicing ever since I had my first job. This is basically the idea that whenever I'm budgeting my monthly bills or saving for a purchase, I put more money away towards that than I know I will need. For example, even if I know my bills are consistently the same number every single month, if I'm able to, I'll set aside another $50 or so dedicated toward that bill. And the reason I started doing this was because years and years ago, I had a phone bill that fluctuated from month to month. I was so tired of under-preparing for it and just not having enough money set aside. So I chose to use overkill and put away more money than I know I would actually need. And eventually I just started to do this with everything and decided to call it the buffer zone. Not only did this keep me on top of paying for my responsibilities on time, but I was always left with a little bit of extra that would usually just go towards gas, groceries, some sort of necessity, or even toward the bills for the following month. I'm sure there are people out there that prefer to budget down to the exact dollar, but I found that by doing this, even if I'm rounding up to the nearest tenth or so, it just simplifies it much more, and a single dollar being off won't completely derail my budget. The whole point of this is to give myself a little bit more breathing room and just essentially over-prepare in case of a scenario where I actually do have to pay more. Try giving yourself a buffer zone for next month's expenses, even if it's just for a month, and see if it benefits you anyway. And I quickly wanted to give a thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Morning Brew. Morning Brew is a free daily email newsletter that's sent straight to my inbox every morning. Their witty articles make it interesting to read, as well as the topics that they cover align with my interests, such as finance and tech. I'm currently reading the details about how a meme sent GameStop's stock up 119%, and it's quite interesting. Over 4 million professionals already read Morning Brew daily. It's 100% completely free and takes legitimately about 10 seconds to sign up. So sign up for Morning Brew using the link in the description box. Once again, it's completely free, so there's really no reason not to give it a try. And thanks again to Morning Brew for sponsoring this video. Try the thrift store or buying used. Something I've been an advocate for a long time is buying certain things used if possible. But specifically, and only more recently, have I actually started taking advantage of my local thrift store. By no means do I actually think I can build an entire wardrobe from thrifting, but it definitely has its use cases. And I recently did find out quite how much I could actually save by going to my local thrift store. Because for example, I have a wedding I'll be going to in June, and I was able to build the entire suit using articles of clothing I found at the thrift store, where I found a pretty high quality jacket and shirt for $6 a piece. Now don't get me wrong, in this suit I'm very aware that I'm not as handsome as Clark Gable, Tom Brady, Idris Elba, John Krasinski, Ricky Martin, any of the Jonas Brothers, Jungkook, or Daemon Targaryen, but it'll do. And besides the luck I've had at thrift stores recently, I've also been able to find very specific things used using apps. Just about all of my camera gear that I've been using to make my videos since day one was bought used either on apps like OfferUp or even at my local used camera store. The point I'm trying to get across is that there are other ways to get the things you need without having to pay full price. It just takes a little bit of effort. Spending audit. And a spending audit to me is exactly what it sounds like. And it's a really simple way of being more responsible with my money, because all it really entails is me aggressively questioning why I'm spending money in certain areas. I've absolutely talked before about evaluating spending and making decisions to cut back where I can, but an audit is just me being a lot more disciplined about it. Auditing all recurring expenses, maybe some purchases on entertainment I could have passed on, and even routine spending I've gotten in the habit of. This is the time where I genuinely question every purchase and truly separate the wants from the needs, the necessary from the unnecessary. Because chances are, there's at least one area of spending I could live without in order to save a little bit every month if I really wanted to or had to. I recommend putting all of your expenses in some type of visual in front of you and evaluate each one to consider the amount it's actually being used. Find tools that make it enjoyable. And this is a very broad statement, so I'll just explain what it means to me. Finding tools that made my personal budgeting and finance enjoyable took some time. But once I found methods that I actually liked using, like specific apps, and even a dedicated spot where I sit and commit to going over my bills and spending, I genuinely found some fun in it. My desk is used for fun, but there are those days where I have to put everything aside and commit my desk to being for getting bills scheduled and my budget reviewed. And even though games and my phone are just inches away, once I'm in the headspace of dealing with my money and sitting there with a coffee and maybe music, it's actually pretty relaxing, even if the money situation isn't. And before you go and write this off as some sort of hippie mumbo jumbo, consider this. Is there some sort of ritual that you have before you sit on the couch and watch a movie, like getting food and turning off the lights? This could be viewed the exact same way. You do certain things to make whatever you're doing more enjoyable. All I'm saying is that there are ways to make the boring a little less boring. Anyways, these were just a few of the tips I wanted to share as to how I'm trying to be more responsible with money. And I hope you were able to see some value in this. And feel free to comment down below any tips you might have regarding this topic. As always, I appreciate the time you spent here and I appreciate you watching. If you did like this video and you like this type of content, be sure to like and consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you next time.